What's going on, guys? Super Span here with none other than Julian Sanchez again. We're here to talk about the first round of the NBA playoffs. Whole lot of crazy stuff going on. It finished about a couple days ago, so they are in the second round right now. But we wanted to wait until the entirety of the first round was finished. Julian, how you doing today, big fella?
Man, I'm doing all right. I'm just chilling.
Mm. How was your weekend?
It was good. A lot of NBA action. Game 7 was just incredible with Kings and Warriors, and
Mm-hmm.
it started the second round on Saturday with the Nuggets and the Suns. Second
Yeah.
round looks pretty promising, but today we're talking about the first round.
Yep. So we're just gonna get right into it here. First, I wanted to talk about the 76ers sweeping the Brooklyn Nets. Um, Not
Sweet.
really much to talk about it. Yeah, you know, we all know that the Nets more than likely wouldn't have been to the playoffs at all had they traded Kyrie and Kevin Durant earlier in the season or, before the season. They were sort of in a comfortable position, like top 3 in the East, if I'm not mistaken, before that those trades went down. But, I mean, I gotta be honest, Mikal Bridges is a promising player, and you know how I feel about Cam Johnson. I feel like obviously he's a phenomenal shooter. Is he gonna be a star? Probably not, but I feel like he's gonna be a very quality role player.
I mean, yeah, Mikal Bridges showed out this playoff series. The Nets came out winning in that trade in the long run.
Mhm.
Like getting a stud like Mikal Bridges, getting a sharpshooter like Cam Johnson for Kevin Durant, not a bad return. Then you got the possibility of Ben Simmons like getting his head out of his butt and actually like playing basketball at a high level again. This Nets team looks pretty dangerous in the future. But like you said, had they traded their best players earlier in the season, they wouldn't even be in the playoff picture. They just had such a big game big game lead in the standings that like no
Yeah.
matter how far they dropped, they were still going to be qualified in the playoffs. But 76ers did their thing. I mean, they're championship contenders every year, so disposing of a team like Brooklyn with hardly any playoff experience, and on top of that, them just coming together in a midseason trade, 76ers did what they had to do, but they did it at a cost. They swept them, but Embiid he hurt his knee during that series and was out the
Mhm.
rest of it and was out game 1 yesterday.
Yeah.
You know, Sixers did what they had to do.
Right. Yeah, obviously you touched on it there, but Embiid sprained his PCL, I believe, the injury was in game 3 there. Um, I mean, he'll be back. It's obviously not like it's gonna keep him out for the remainder of the playoffs. But a super easy sweep for the 76ers. Like you said, they're a championship contender, so you really expect this from them. Next up, I wanted to talk about the Nuggets versus the Timberwolves series. This one, not much more interesting, if you ask me, in terms of overall battle. Um, but I mean, Anthony Edwards really is taking over as the star player as the Timberwolves, I'd say clearly. He's an absolute stud. Um, I mean, he certainly was playing as if he's been there before, and that's something you really like to see out of a former number 1 overall pick, a guy that you're investing your future in. Um, Something that sort of is concerning is the play of Carl Anthony Towns. He had a couple okay games, but overall he just, like Jimmy Butler said, he's looking soft. He's not looking like he really wants to win. Certainly not as much as Anthony Edwards there. I mean, I don't know. Maybe it's because you had Jokic on him. Jokic isn't really a good defender. Um, but who knows? Maybe it's the limelight. Another thing, I mean, Jokic is phenomenal. We all know that. But Jamal Murray had a phenomenal series in this too. I mean, it's really cool to see him come back and play at this level. I wasn't really focused too much on watching the Nuggets all season. But Jamal Murray just absolutely destroyed them, and that's really cool to see, to be honest.
The return of Jamal Murray, man. I
Hmm.
mean, even though Jokic was MVP the last 2 seasons, they definitely missed Jamal Murray's scoring punch in the playoffs. I mean, Jokic's first MVP season, they get swept out by the Suns. His second MVP season, which was last season, they get bounced. But that was
Hmm.
all without Jamal Murray. He's the difference maker here. And Denver just looks like a complete team. Like from top to bottom, they're deep on all 5 positions, and they got a deep bench, phenomenal coaching, 2-time MVP Jokic running the show. Like Denver
Hmm.
just looks they just look complete. They look really good. As for Minnesota, like you said, Karl Anthony Towns just he 2 consecutive playoffs now. He just had very bonehead performances and just very suspect like drive like to want to win. Like you saw Anthony Edwards just lay it all on the court in that five
Hmm.
game series. But with Karl Anthony Towns, it's just that he shrinks in the moment, and then I guess he shrank more facing a 2-time MVP, which he didn't have to guard the whole series. That's what they got Rudy Gobert for.
Hmm.
2-time like defensive player of the year right there, going up against a 2-time MVP. Like Karl Anthony Towns should have been feasting on the other guys, but he shrinks in those moments. Like he just tends to shrink, and Minnesota needs to really think about trading Karl Anthony Towns. Like they got their franchise player. I would much rather have Gobert than Cat at this point, because at least with Gobert you're gonna get that consistency on defense. He may not give you much on offense, but shoot, you don't need much when you got Anthony Edwards out there like a firecracker just going off for 35 points.
Hmm. And I mean, if they were to trade Carl Anthony Towns, I feel like they'd get a pretty decent haul for him. So I mean, that would only help you out in the long run. I feel like with Cat on the team, he just doesn't fit the same sort of mold that Anthony Edwards is trying to set there.
He also doesn't
Which
fit with Gobert. Those two don't really like mesh
yeah,
together. They don't, especially since Gobert doesn't have like a mid range shot. Like it was
yeah.
doomed from the get go, that pairing. So they're not going to get rid of Gobert. They just got rid of so much to get him. So the odd man now has got to be Karl Anthony Towns. And
Yeah.
I don't think the Timberwolves are going to be that sad to let him go. Well, to trade him, because they got Anthony Edwards. He's their future.
Hmm. The next series I wanted to talk about here was the Celtics and the Hawks. So the Celtics won the series 4-2. Not really a surprise there either. The Celtics are one of the odds-on favorites to not only make it to the finals but win the whole thing. They're another team that just looks incredibly complete. I mean, you got Jalen Brown, Jason Tatum, Brogdon, Smart. Derek White was absolutely balling out for a few games there, which that's another team I wouldn't have thought in a million years that Derek White would be providing at this, level for them. I mean, he was killing it. Um, but overall, this team is just too tough to beat. I don't think Trey Young is that guy. I don't think he can lead a team to a championship. I know he got to the Eastern Conference Finals. What was it, 2 years ago? But
2021. Yep.
yeah, I feel like that was sort of a fluke. He's a good player, but I don't think he can be like the guy on a team, as I mentioned, like Jalen Brown or Tatum can. Brogdon, phenomenal player, really like him. Marcus Smart, I mean, I know a lot of people sort of get annoyed by him and the way he plays, but there's no doubting that He's an absolute beast on the defensive end. His offense is a little shaky, but overall, they have such a phenomenal team. It's going to be so hard to knock them out of the playoffs.
See, I'm gonna have to disagree with you on that one about the Celtics. They look beatable, in my opinion.
Mhm.
Like, you said, the Hawks should like they're not a very good team compared to the Celtics, inferior team, and I agree with you on that. But the thing is, Celtics let go 2 games in that series. They should have swept them.
Mhm.
But in those 2 losses they had, they just looked like they what the heck are they doing out there type of situation. Why is Marcus Smart running into Trae Young? Why is Jalen Brown allowing so much space for Trae Young to score 3 on them? Like, just little things you don't see a championship team do, Like,
Yeah.
they just have a lot of bonehead mistakes from time to time, and it's going to come back to bite the Celtics, in my opinion. They went through this last year in the finals, like especially a team against Golden State who's been there before. You can't have mistakes. You can't have You can't have turnovers at the most crucial moments. You can't foul a shooter at the 3 point line while they're shooting a three. Like the Celtics just be doing the most bonehead things at times.
Mm.
If they can clean that up, they'd be unstoppable. But in my opinion, they just have too many blunders in the most inconvenient moments, and it showed in that Hawks series because they should have handled the Hawks in 4 games. It should have been a sweep, in my opinion.
Mhm.
And for the Hawks, I mean, they got a lot of questions going into the offseason, especially with Trae Young. He's been thrown out there in trade rumors. What are they going to do with DeJounte Murray? They got rid of 2 first-round picks for this man, and they got to pay him at some point, or if they're gonna pay him. John Collins has been in trade rumors for the last four
Mm.
years now. So like the Hawks have a lot of questions, and they invested in Trae Young. They got to make this work for them, in my opinion. They got to. It's like you how would you look as a franchise giving up on your guy when you traded up to get him and passed on a generational talent, Luka
Yeah.
Doncic? So it's like you can't. They have to either make this work or get a lot of assets for Trae Young, but they're gonna look very stupid the day they trade Trae Young. It's like, well, you could have had Luka.
Yeah. That's that is a big what if right there. I remember like especially like the first couple years of both of their careers, people were saying that's about as much of a win-win trade as you can get. Now, I feel like most people would say that the Mavericks easily got the best player. However, the Mavericks aren't really, I mean, they didn't even make the playoffs. So, I don't even did they even make the play in? I don't believe
Nah,
so,
they got
right?
eliminated from play-in. The Bulls beat them. The Bulls
Absolute.
eliminated them from the
That's
play-in.
right. That's right.
Yeah, yeah.
That like just that's a pretty pathetic team right there aside from
Yeah.
Luca, of course.
In terms of situations, both teams are looking like idiots at this moment.
Yeah.
Like how can you both ruin like 2 franchise players that you guys pretty much gave up picks for and swapped with?
Yeah.
But in terms of like individual play, you're still going to take Luka Doncic over Trae Young, no matter what. Like it doesn't matter what situation you're in, you're going to take
Oh
Luka.
yeah. Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Um Next up, I wanted to talk about the Suns and the Clippers. Now, this one is we're starting to get into the real interesting series here. Kawhi Leonard suffered a torn meniscus in game 2 and missed the remainder of the series, and Paul George didn't even play at all this series. That would have obviously made everything completely different. You and I were agreeing that if even just Kawhi was able to play, the series would have been, I feel like it would have tipped in the Clippers' favor, but Devin Booker is looking unbeatable. Um, Kevin Durant, I mean, he's Kevin Durant. He's obviously going to continue to be a killer. And, Chris Paul is sort of taken a backseat, obviously, in terms of scoring, but really, I mean, within the last few years, he hasn't been a huge scorer to begin with. He's still playing great when it comes to just being an overall point guard. I mean, he's one of the best point guards of all time. Continues to still live up to that. Just I don't know. He's still a great player. Not as obviously, like I said, as much of a scorer, but you don't need to be a big scorer when you got Devin Booker and Kevin Durant on your team.
That's right, man. That series, wow, what a tease though. What a tease that was for Kawhi Leonard to like finally back in the playoffs, be back to where
Hmm.
he's playing at a high level, and he showed out too, man. Kawhi showed out those games. Unfortunately, like the Clippers, all these last 4 years in the Kawhi and Paul George era, the injury bugs got to hit him, you know,
Yep.
and that's so sad because when this team is fully healthy, I feel like no one can stop them. But we never got to see that. We never got to see that. But we saw it once in the bubble, and they blew a 3-1 lead.
Yeah.
But man, it's just uh, Kawhi by himself could have probably beat this Suns team because this Suns team is pretty flawed. I mean, like they got those two big time scorers, but who else? You know, like
Hmm.
the other guys got to step up and play more than what they're asked to do. You know, because when you're playing on a team where it's really top heavy, it's Chris Paul, Durant, Booker, and then to some extent Aiton.
Right.
And even he doesn't get that many touches. He's like out there roaming the paint, getting offensive putbacks and stuff. So I feel like the Suns got off easy. They got lucky that the injury bug hit the Clippers because of even with just Kawhi out there, I feel like they would have just not handled the Sun, not handled the Suns, but they would have it would have went seven. The series would have went seven had they had their whole just Kawhi out there actually, not let alone Paul George.
Yeah. I got a bone to pick with you there because you said that they're a top heavy team. They got that boy campaign. How could you like the Bulls legend
Oh
campaign?
man, the
One of the
breakdancing
darkest
legend.
years for,
Oh,
for the Bulls, man. No, but yeah,
oh man.
I completely agree with you. They got rid of sure they got Kevin Durant, but they got rid of two very key pieces in Bridges and Cam Johnson. Um, but yeah, the Suns won 4 games to 1. Couldn't agree more that Kawhi could very easily take on the Suns themselves. The Clippers aside from Kawhi and Paul George are a solid team. I mean, Westbrook being a little washy still can provide you with some great minutes, you know? They're just an overall well-rounded team, but with Kawhi and Paul George both out, you're not going to beat the Suns as even as top heavy as they are. Couldn't agree more in that aspect. I
Mhm.
don't know what they're gonna do, side note, with DeAndre Ayton. I feel like he's gonna be gone at some point, but I guess we'll see when that
They'll have to recoup some assets, like if they really want
definitely.
because they gotta fill out the rest of that team and they can't trade Booker or Chris Paul, so they're gonna have to trade Aiton. And
Hmm.
I mean, in my opinion, I feel like you can find any big man out in the street, especially if you're gonna pair him up with scorers to that extent. You just need a guy to rebound for them.
Yeah, right. Exactly. They'll be
Like
just fine
you,
though, I feel
like you
like.
throw JaVale McGee in that starting unit, you replace him with DeAndre Ayton. All
Hmm.
JaVale McGee has to do is just block shots and get rebounds and just outlet to Booker or outlet to Durant. That's it.
Yeah, they'll be just
Where
fine.
Whereas Ayton, he looks at himself as, I'm the number one pick. Why am I not getting my touches? It's like, well, just send him to a team that values a big man of Ayton's skill set.
Hmm.
Pretty sure they'll get something for him.
The Pacers. That'd be interesting to see them
Yeah,
trade
the
him to the Pacers for
Pacers.
like Miles Turner. I know we saw that well,
Well, the Pacers
my
went for him in free agency, and
yeah, right.
the Suns matched him on the offer because he was an
Yeah,
restricted free agent.
right. So next one I wanted to talk about I told you we're getting into the interesting ones. The Knicks and the Cavs. I
Ooh,
mean, as far as Knicks fans are concerned, they just won the entire NBA Finals. But in all seriousness, they they played really well, man. I mean, nobody. I feel like there wasn't one player alone that stood out. Um, I don't know. They're a well-rounded team. Obviously, I don't think they're gonna do anything further than, winning this series. Who knows? I mean, they're playing against the Miami Heat in the second round there, which is another interesting series in itself, Jimmy versus Tibbs. But I mean, whenever there's the Knicks in the playoffs, it's certain to be entertaining at the very least. I mean, after they win one game, Knicks fans are flooding the streets of New York and just wreaking havoc. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. They're a well-rounded team, but who knows how far they can go, you know? I guess I guess we'll see how they fare against the Miami Heat.
yeah, that Cavs Knicks series, I had a little more high hopes for it because I thought it would go seven, but man, all credit to Coach Tibbs. He
Mhm.
had that team prepared. Jalen Brunson was a big difference, especially after Randall went down. Like he just put that team on his back and just said, "Let's go, let's get this." Like
Yeah.
he brought that Chicago attitude to New York and took them to the second round. That's crazy, dude. The Knicks best the NBA is better when the Knicks and the Lakers and the Chicago Bulls, unfortunately they're not in the playoffs, but when the Bulls and the Lakers and Knicks are all in the playoffs, the NBA is better off with that because that's your top three biggest markets in the playoffs. But
Mhm.
for the Cavs, man, that good showing for them. Like this Cavs team is awesome. Like I never thought I'd ever say that because my whole entire life, every time I said this Cavs team's pretty good, LeBron's on the team.
Yeah.
And this is the first time in my lifetime I've ever seen a Cavs team without LeBron James make the playoffs and actually have like a decent showing out. Like,
Yeah.
granted, they only won one game, but this team is still really young. I mean, other than Mitchell and Jared Allen, like not really much on that team. Not many players on that team had playoff experience, and
Mhm.
they got a first taste of it. Like Garland, you could tell right away he was like not ready for the playoff moment. Like he didn't really show out like he should have this series against the Knicks. It would have been a different story had Garland shown out, but overall, the Cavs look like a serious threat in the East in the coming years if Mitchell wants to stay, which I don't see why
Mhm.
he wouldn't. It'll probably boil down to just being in Cleveland.
Yeah, right.
Who wants to vacation in Cleveland? But
Shout out Joakim
anyway,
Noah.
but yeah, like they're building a real good winner though. There though, like Mitchell's like a good piece for them to keep and retain. Now it's just up to them to like build on this playoff run and hopefully they do low key, man, because it's good to see Cleveland actually have like some you know relevancy in the NBA, because I like to see more teams with relevancy, because I've always seen
Mhm.
teams just suck my entire life. It's like, oh hey, like that team's actually pretty good, like or like the
Yeah.
Sacramento Kings, that team like has always sucked and now they made a playoff run.
Yep. That's a great segue into the next series I wanted to talk about, which the Kings and the Warriors. The you just mentioned it. I mean, the Kings were terrible for a long time. First playoff appearance in what was it, 17 years, I believe.
Bro, I
Something
was
like that.
just it was the end of my eighth grade year when the Kings made the playoffs.
Absolutely crazy. I mean,
And I'm 31 years old now, so that was crazy. That was 15 years ago, 16 years ago.
yeah. It it's tough when your first playoff series in that amount of time is against the defending champion Golden State Warriors.
Sheesh.
I mean, how else can you explain it? I mean, Kings win the first two games. and the Warriors go on to win 3 straight. Kings end up tying it up. And then, we got a game 7. Warriors ended up blowing them out by 20 as Curry scores 50 points. And Kevon Looney just absolutely rebounds the hell out of the ball, getting 21 rebounds in that game. I mean, what else can you say? I mean, I'm super proud of the Kings. You were a Kings fan all year. I'm
Yup.
I'm happy that they made that trade for Sabonis. I honestly, when it went down, a lot of people were giving them flack, myself included, but that trade turned out to be a really a win-win trade, dare I
Yup.
say, you know?
Yup. Yup.
What do you got to say about
Because
your
because
Kings?
both. Oh man. All right. Shout out to the Sacramento Kings. I'm
Mm,
only reason why I'm a Kings
shout out.
fan is because I went to a Spurs Kings game for the free, and I
Mhm.
once I seen that trio of Malik Monk and De'Aaron Fox and Sabonis just play together, I was hooked. I was
Yeah.
hooked. They play such a great brand of basketball. Granted, they don't play much defense, but who cares when you're scoring like 120 points, 130 points a night? But yeah, they showed out this playoffs. They show that they belong. I don't think this is a fluke season. Very happy for the Kings fans because dang, they went through 15 years, 16 years of misery, like to the
Mhm.
point where they thought they were going to lose their team to Seattle and all that other stuff. Like and DeMarcus Cousins, the Tyreek Evans, who else? Jimmer Fredette, like just player after player going through all that, and then finally they make the playoffs after 16 years. Congratulations, Kings!
Yeah, this is an
And
awesome season
and
for them.
it was great. The Warriors, though, this is why they're the Warriors. This is why they're a dynasty. When all of the media counts them out, when we're saying, "Hey, this might be the end," Steph Curry shows why he's the best player in the NBA.
Yeah.
He shows why he's the shooter. He shows why he's a champion. He shows why he he's dominated this game since I want to say 2015. Yeah, 2015.
Mhm.
Like if you weren't a believer of Steph Curry, if you didn't think he could lead a team, I hope this series shows made you a believer because
Yeah.
50 points,
Yeah.
50.
To
I
close
mean,
out a
drop
series.
50, 5-0.
Yeah.
What?
Absolutely insane. He's I mean,
Yeah.
he's absolute killer. We've all known that. First unanimous MVP in NBA history for a reason. Um, Absolutely changing the game. So we got about 3 minutes in this Zoom call here. That's right, we're doing it on Zoom. So whatever. What do you want us to do, YouTube? Um, so real quick, we're gonna get down to the last two series that I wanted to talk about. Lakers and Grizzlies. I mean, Dylan Brooks should have just kept his mouth shut. Same with John Morant saying he's fine in the West. Clearly not. Uh,
Right.
and my boy Austin Reeves, just I mean that he's come on. All jokes aside, he is a dog. Like, what else can you say about him? He's a phenomenal player. I mean, I don't know. I mean, the dude's just got that dog in him. There's not much else to say. I mean, the Lakers were written off earlier in the season there, and I mean, they come in through the play-in tournament and end up beating a tough Memphis team. You say what you want, but Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson, I mean, defensive player of the year. And I don't know. I mean, they're just a fun team to watch. They're a great team overall, but ultimately, when you poke LeBron, that's it's not going to turn out good for you.
Nah. I mean, didn't turn out good for Deshaun Stevenson or Lance Stevenson or
Hmm.
who else talked a lot of mess, but whatever. Didn't work out for either of them. I
Yeah,
had Memphis winning this series. I had them like
so did I.
I was on some like what is wrong with everybody? Don't they know this is the Grizzlies, second best team in the West? The Lakers just haven't got it together all year. Now you're expecting them to win a playoff series? And I'm
Yeah.
like, all right, you have to prove it to me. But once they once Dylan Brooks started talking all that smack, and but like going there though, like he called the man old. He called the man old, bro. Like
Right.
LeBron James, the man's been doing this for damn near 20 years, and you're gonna say that to him? I was like, nah,
One of the best
bro.
players of all time.
LeBron can't go out like that. If imagine had Dylan Brooks backed up his words and they eliminated the Lakers, it would have been over with. LeBron's reputation would have just looked a whole lot different.
Yeah.
Letting Dylan Brooks talk all that mess and then send you packing to Cancun.
Speaking of Dylan Brooks, gonna put a picture up here. The Grizzlies have informed Dylan Brooks that he will not be back under any circumstances via Shams Charania. I mean, I I'm not incredibly surprised. I don't think they're gonna miss him too much, but I want to know why they dropped the under any circumstances bar right there. I mean, that is tough.
I mean, when your team gets embarrassed like that, I'm pretty sure they had to find some sort of scapegoat. But that's kind of
Yeah,
messed up how they're doing that because it's like rather than just say, "Oh, we'll cross that bridge when we get there," they tank this trade value and take this value in general by saying, "Hey, you're not coming back at all. You know,
yeah,
kick rocks." And it's
it's
like, well,
crazy.
what's the Grizzlies doing here? Because last season, last season the Grizzlies got through the playoffs in the second round, but while still having that swagger, still having that like that trash talking, but that got them wins. Then
Yeah,
everything that transpired this season, culminating into Dylan Brooks, trash talking LeBron and the Lakers, and then them getting bounced. Like I'm pretty sure the Memphis ownership and all of them were already sick and tired of the shenanigans.
yeah,
And this is their way of pivoting because it worked. It worked starting out because like what was ownership gonna say when the Grizzlies are winning like 57 games each season and talking crap? Like what are they gonna
yeah,
say? They can't really say much. But now since it's backfired on them, since they went into the season with expectations, only for them to not meet them and be on their own detriment. It's not like they lost John Morant for the season. Like nah, he got in trouble on his own accord
yeah,
and trying to be a gangster or whatever, however they want to paint it. It's on the right now. It's on the Memphis Grizzlies to do damage control, and so far they haven't done that because now they're showing off. Now they're showing that they can be very petty to players that they've drafted now. What
hmm
does that show to other veteran free agents or potential free agents that want to go there? Because Dylan Brooks was with the team through the final years of the grindhouse days with Conley, with Gasol. I think Zebo was there for like half a season maybe with Dylan Brooks, but he was there from the start of the whole thing. And to do him dirty like that, I mean, yeah, he talked a lot of crap, but at the same time, you drafted that player.
yeah, yeah. He's a
So
long-standing player, relatively.
yeah, yeah, like he was there before Morant. So I don't
Yeah.
know. Like I just didn't like how they did him dirty like that.
hmm
Grizzlies got a lot of stuff to figure out, before they can be considered contenders. They got the talent, just not the maturity or like the poise of a championship contender yet.
Yeah. Um, and then finally, we're getting into the best series, I think, undoubtedly, in the first round there. The Heat beating the Bucks. Not only did they beat them, they gave them the gentleman's sweep. Just, I mean, what else is there to say? Jimmy Butler averaged about 37 points per game and 45% from three. The Heat are the first play-in team to win a playoff series just in general. It hasn't been around too long, but still impressive. Um, Especially as an eighth seed. And then the Heat went from fourth worst in terms of 3-point shooting percentage to in the regular season to first in the playoffs so far. I mean, Jimmy Butler's a god. There's not much else to say. As a Bulls fan, it really hurts to see him flourishing, continue to flourish on another team. As we were saying, I mean, our front office at the time didn't know how to build around him. But I wish that they had any sort of common sense, and I certainly wish that he was still on the Bulls. But I'm happy for him. Impressive feat to come in through the play-in tournament, get the eighth seed, not only do all that, but win against the freaking Bucks. Absolutely insane.
The Heat outmatched and outcoached Milwaukee through the entire series.
Mhm.
That Milwaukee core, I mean, I think they took him as far as it can go. They milked that core since the title, like even before the title. They milked that core as far as they can go. Like for them to come in, best record in the NBA, number one seed overall, and for them to just come in and get thrashed by them. Now, granted, Miami Heat are, they're better than what their record shows, but
Mhm.
you're still the number one seed in the NBA. Like, how are you going to come in and just like not give? I don't want to say they don't give it their all, but I mean, Miami just played like they had nothing to lose, and it showed
Yeah.
big time. It showed big time. Um, the injury to Giannis shouldn't have mattered to begin with because if you have a championship team, you can weather the storm without your best player. I mean, they did that in the championship year with when he went out in the conference finals for those two games, I believe,
Yeah.
with the knee injury. Um, but yeah, Miami, shoot, they've always been like this. And then you get a player like Jimmy Butler that embodies Heat culture. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm honestly not really surprised because when Miami won game one, I saw it coming. I was calling it. I was telling you, like,
Yeah.
oh, so who do you got in the second round? You guys said your teams or whatever. I was like, oh, I got Heat Knicks. And both you and Hoodie Vic, shout out Hoodie Vic. You
Shout
guys,
out.
you guys just dogged me for that. They're like, ain't no way,
Absolutely.
it's Milwaukee, blah blah blah, and this and that. And then Jimmy Butler goes for 56 points, and that's what made you guys believe.
Dude.
That man is great. He
Woo!
is him. He is him. Himmy
Yeah.
Butler. Himmy Butler.
Yeah, dude. I like I said, I couldn't be more proud of him. Like it hurts, man. It really hurts. You see the type of effort that he puts in to each and every game. And you know I'm a big Zach LaVine apologist, huge, but then you look at Zach. I mean, it's like, I mean, I get it. We've all said Zach isn't your a number one type of player, especially on a championship team. But I mean, it's like, God, we had Jimmy Butler. We had him. All we had to do was build properly around him. And it's not like he even disliked the Bulls. He's been on record since then saying, that he loved his time in Chicago, still loves us. And it's like it's not like we screwed up the relationship with Jimmy Butler in any way.
Mm,
It's just Gar Pax
they didn't
being
want to pay him.
completely right. They
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 didn't want to
they
give him
just
the max.
right. They're just incompetent. And it's like, how could you not want to give a guy like Jimmy Butler the max? How could you not want to build around him? Look what he's doing with the eighth seeded Miami Heat. They weren't even eighth seed to go into the play-in. They were the ninth seed.
Hmm.
And man, I could go on and on about just frustrations as a Bulls fan. I know this wasn't meant to be a Bulls related episode here, but I mean, when you got a guy like Jimmy Butler doing what
Hmm.
he's doing, continuing to do what he does, I mean, it's enough to make a grown Bulls fan cry. I mean, I can only imagine how
Yeah,
Timberwolves
man.
fans and Sixers fans must feel
76ers
because
fans mostly
oh,
because they essentially gave up Butler to appease to Ben Simmons, and look how that worked out. Because
Right.
if it was up to
Oh
if
man.
they would have just listened to Embiid, Ben Simmons would have been out of town already.
Yeah.
Because Joel, I feel like, all right, this may be another segue, but I feel like if the Sixers don't get it done this season, Joel's going to Miami. He's gonna find a way to go to Miami. He's gonna want to play with Butler. He wants that championship. He wants someone to play with alongside with that gives a damn, you know. Butler's
Yeah.
that guy. Butler's that guy you get like, man, like you said,
Let it out.
it's frustrating that the Bulls just couldn't find a way to build around them, but the end of the day, it's guard packs. Could they really find a
Yeah.
way to build around a player of that caliber, especially since they
No.
didn't want to pay him? That's why I said like Miami was lucky. Like he's lucky to go to Miami because Miami's a well ran organization. Like Miami, San Antonio, Indiana to some extent, and who's another one? Golden State, uh, Denver now. Like they're all well ran organizations,
Yeah.
and you get a player like that that embodies like hard work, dedication, giving it 110% every day. That's Heat culture, and you get a guy like Butler that embodies that. You would wish you would have a player like that in your locker room, you know. But
Mm-hmm.
the Bulls had him in that locker room, and some were split on that. You know, like his time in Chicago was very divisive in his last 3 years, especially with the whole Rose situation. You know,
Yeah. Yeah.
because not a lot of people were like, oh, you know, we got rid of Rose. Now we got Butler. It's like we got rid of Rose. Now we got to build around Butler. Like everyone was pretty bummed
Yeah.
out, you know. It
Oh
was more so like, yeah, it was more so
right.
being more bummed out about that. And then a lot of people didn't like Jimmy for some reason because he he went from like, you know, being the last pick of the draft, being like a very humble kid to
Mm-hmm.
now like after 2015 20 and then 2015 and 2016 his first two all-star seasons he became a little more Hollywood, which I didn't mind it. You're in Chicago, act as Hollywood as you
That's how
can.
you're supposed to be when you're in
Right,
Chicago, when you're in this
right.
market.
But that rubbed Joakim the wrong way, and it rubbed the Chicago media the wrong way for some reason, and it rubbed the Bulls front office the wrong way, which I don't understand. Like,
That's why we can't have nice
Don't
things,
you
man.
don't you want a superstar player that gets like endorsements from like Mark Wahlberg or any of these people? Like when did D Rose ever do that? D Rose was the most humble, quiet superstar we've ever had, but he never did
Right.
anything other than an Adidas commercial here and there, you know?
Yeah.
Butler was out there like doing like commercials, movies, movie roles, and all that other stuff. And Chicago media is like, wait a minute, you're the last pick of the draft. Why are you acting like this? You weren't
Yeah.
like this before, and it just became like a
It
very like
hurts.
it became a circus when it shouldn't have been. You know, he's our best player. You know, act like it.
Dude's an absolute dog. And like you could clearly see how frustrated we are if you guys are watching this or listening to it. Again, didn't want it to become focused on the Bulls. And we're not going to continue that much longer. But at the end of the day, you got to be happy for Jimmy Butler. Uh, just a killer.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
I mean, honestly, I'm just gonna leave it at that. Congratulations to Jimmy Butler and the Miami Heat. I strongly feel like they can sweep the Knicks. Um, yeah, I feel like they can make it to the NBA Finals, man. I really do.
yeah.
Um, I mean, if they can beat the freaking Milwaukee Bucks, what makes you think they can't beat Philadelphia or Boston? You know?
Yeah,
Um,
as vulnerable as Boston looks, it could be a possibility.
yeah,
Because like I said earlier in the video, Boston tends to have these blunders in the final moments of the game. A team like Miami,
Whew,
that's game over right there,
they'll
dude.
eat that up.
Eric Spoelstra is a damn good coach, and
Yeah.
he will coach numbers around a rookie head coach essentially. Mike Muscala, is that his name? Mike Muzzola or whatever. Muzella
Missoula.
Missoula. There you go.
Yeah, Joe
This is
Missoula.
that.
Joe Missoula. That's his
There
name.
you go, Joe Missoula. This is essentially his first season. He's a
Yeah.
rookie head coach. Like I don't know, man. Like you play a team, even Doc Rivers. Like I think the Sixers might beat the Celtics just simply because of Doc Rivers being a better coach competently, maybe,
I'm
hopefully.
glad you
If
said that, man, because I've been a Doc Rivers apologist as well. I'm not a huge like gigantic fan of him, but like everybody's like, oh, he couldn't do anything with the Clippers. He couldn't do anything besides the championship with Boston. Now Philly, but it's like I
well,
really feel like look at the teams he's coached. Anytime he's been a coach, besides I think he was the coach for the Magic for like a small period of time. They've been a phenomenal team. Any team he's been on. It
yeah.
just wasn't in the cards for him to win another championship since '08. He's a phenomenal coach, point blank, end of statement. Like I truly believe that. And yeah, I agree that the Sixers, if they match up against actually they're matching up against them in the second round, right? In this
Yeah, yeah.
in this round. Yeah, I really feel like the Sixers could beat them, and I wouldn't be surprised.
Hmm.
But
Everything just got to
I'm
click for the Sixers. Like
yeah,
they gotta have their best players be on their game. They can't have James Harden. In my opinion, is the X factor. He showed it in Game 1, and in my opinion, he's the reason why they should win this series. Simply because they need that other scoring punch. You're not gonna have Joel Embiid. Looks like for the entire series. Like if they can get him in Game 5, that would be great. But they need Harden to be Houston Harden.
yeah. Well,
Yep, yep, yep.
anyway, I'm gonna end it there. We'll be back probably at the end of the second round.
Yeah, most likely the end of the second round. You
Yeah.
know, see
I
this
I
craziness unfold.
I might make a video or two about the Bulls in the meantime. But thank you guys so much for watching, whether you are watching via YouTube podcast or watching it as a regular video. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, watching overall, and I'll see you guys next time.
See you guys.